Lock the pressurized hatch of the bathysphere, calibrate your deepwater sonar arrays, and prepare to witness the sudden, violent emergence of an apex predator that the entire scientific community incorrectly assumed was extinct. Welcome to the Oceanic Observation Deck, marine biologists. The emergency acoustic anomaly flashing across our primary sonar screens today is designated XRP cleared, market just shifted everything. And if you are currently floating in the shallow waters, staring at the minor ripples on the surface and complaining about a spot price hovering around $1.52, you are fundamentally failing to understand the colossal displacement of mass occurring right beneath your fragile vessel. For years, this specific financial leviathan was tangled in a dense, suffocating net of regulatory gill nets. The civilian observers watched the agonizing struggle, assumed the creature was permanently paralyzed, and completely abandoned the expedition. But the raw telemetry data streaming into our terminal right now confirms the absolute unthinkable. The legal nets have been entirely cleared, the massive predator has violently severed the restraining lines, and it is actively ascending from the abyssal depths to reclaim its territory at the very top of the food chain. Just hours ago, our tracking sensors verified that this digital behemoth completely overtook the BNB token, officially reclaiming the fourth largest market capitalization position in the entire crypto ocean, with a staggering displacement of over $93 billion. This is not a random, uncoordinated thrashing of a dying fish. This is a highly calculated predatory shift in the global market hierarchy. The retail swimmers are currently completely paralyzed by the manufactured turbulence of the impending Federal Open Market Committee meetings, allowing the macroeconomic undertow to drag them away from their holdings. They are looking at the red and green candlestick charts like a confused school of baitfish, completely oblivious to the massive shadow rising from the deep. But down here in the pressurized cabin, we do not rely on the emotional panic of the surface dwellers. We track the undeniable acoustic signatures of pure, institutional mass. The resistance zone at $1.40 has been decisively breached, accompanied by a terrifying 125% surge in trading volume. The apex predator has cleared the trench. Do not let the deceptive calm of the surface waters convince you to dive without a shark cage. The entire market topology just fundamentally shifted, and the feeding frenzy is about to violently commence. Let us redirect our deep water submersibles away from the blinding, deceptive sunlight of the public exchanges and forensically analyze the massive tectonic shifts currently fracturing the very bedrock of the global financial ocean. If you want to survive the greatest transfer of wealth in the modern era and successfully navigate this unprecedented intersection of oceanic biology and cryptographic technology, you must completely reject the superficial, noisy sonar pings broadcasted by the mainstream financial media. The legacy banking cartels are absolutely desperate to maintain their monopoly on global capital currents, and they are executing a highly classified resource extraction operation right under your nose, perfectly shielded by the crushing pressure of the deep. The corporate financial networks are aggressively pushing a completely recycled narrative, falsely claiming that institutional capital has entirely evacuated the digital asset sector due to rising geopolitical temperatures and shifting American monetary currents. But let me tell you a fundamental, undeniable scientific truth about surviving in this ruthless digital ecosystem. If you rely on reused, copy and pasted navigational charts fed to you by the very entities actively trying to harvest your energy, the algorithmic currents governing this ocean will ruthlessly crush your portfolio and permanently wash away your future. You must forge a completely original conviction based on hard, undeniable, on-chain topological telemetry. If we bypass the public monitors and audit the highly classified data streams emanating from the institutional bedrock, a glaring multi-trillion-dollar structural anomaly immediately illuminates the sonar. We have just empirically verified that Ripple Prime has been officially added to the National Securities Clearing Corporation directory under the absolute undisputed center of gravity of Wall Street, the Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation. That precise surgical integration effectively hardwires this decentralized ledger directly into the beating heart of the American traditional equity settlement machinery. The DTCC processes quadrillions of dollars in securities transactions annually. This is not a minor symbiotic partnership with a remora fish. This is the entire legacy financial ocean floor being systematically re-engineered to directly route institutional post-trade volumes onto the XRP ledger. The topography has permanently shifted. Push the hydrodynamic telemetry scanners to their absolute maximum capacity and focus directly on the covert feeding patterns of the largest institutional whales currently patrolling this decentralized ecosystem, because the sheer scale of their biological consumption is exactly what the legacy institutions are actively trying to conceal. The civilian traders completely misunderstand the fundamental predatory mechanics of this ocean. They mistakenly believe that the financial valuation of this network is solely dependent on amateur baitfish buying and selling physical tokens based on erratic emotional sentiment and fleeting social media currents. They have completely failed to anticipate the explosive parabolic scaling of Ripple's own corporate valuation, which just violently surged to an astonishing $50 billion through a massive private share buyback program. This specific financial maneuver places Ripple in the exact same apex tier as global monolithic titans like SpaceX and Stripe. We are no longer tracking the erratic, unpredictable behavior of retail plankton. We are tracking sovereign megacorporations and massive legacy banking syndicates, aggressively hardwiring their cross-border liquidity operations directly into this specific framework. But here's the ultimate tactical secret that the institutions are desperately trying to hide from the public observation decks. The monolithic financial titans commanding the heavily fortified spot exchange-traded funds have quietly consumed an absolutely staggering stockpile of over $1.4 billion in physical cryptographic assets. How does a pod of institutional whales consume over $1 billion of pure, concentrated fiat mass without violently triggering the public exchange alarms and launching the spot price out of the water? The answer lies in the highly secretive, completely unregulated subterranean trenches known as over-the-counter dark pools. These massive sovereign asset managers are not swimming into the brightly lit public reefs to execute their multi-billion-dollar acquisition orders, because doing so would instantly detonate a massive price explosion and permanently destroy their carefully calculated covert accumulation margins. They are silently hoarding the physical float inside these dark pool caverns, mathematically locking away the circulating supply before the massive macroeconomic tidal wave officially makes landfall and shatters the public exchanges. The whales are draining the ocean dry. Expand the intercontinental acoustic reconnaissance grid to encompass the entire global macroeconomic ocean, because the momentum triggering this massive infrastructural shift originates on a highly synchronized international scale that completely dwarfs the localized tidal patterns happening within the domestic borders of the United States. A master marine biologist understands that the total domination of a new financial ecosystem requires the complete systemic integration of the old world sovereign pressure systems, and the phenomenon actively unfolding right now accounts for this exact universal convergence to maintain absolute global liquidity. While the domestic civilian sector is completely mesmerized by the minor political ripples in Washington, D.C., and the temporary, agonizing price suppression on their mobile trading applications, our international listening stations have intercepted critical paradigm-shifting frequencies from the highest echelons of European and Asian financial syndicates. The new, incredibly urgent intelligence that confirms the massive impending tsunami is an unprecedented European convergence designed to integrate directly with this new digital standard. We have verified that Société Générale, the titanic French financial institution commanding nearly $2 trillion in global assets, has officially activated its MiCA-compliant euro stablecoin directly on the Ripple infrastructure. Concurrently, Deutsche Bank, Germany's absolute largest lender with over $1.6 trillion in total assets, has officially integrated this exact payment architecture for cross-border transfers and foreign exchange settlement. Furthermore, the RLUSD Enterprise stablecoin network capitalization has violently expanded past the $1.5 billion threshold, acting as a massive bioluminescent lure to attract global corporate treasuries. When trillion-dollar sovereign banking entities voluntarily integrate a decentralized cryptographic ledger into their core operational machinery to settle corporate bonds and stablecoin transfers, it mathematically guarantees a tidal wave of future utility volume that will absolutely overwhelm the current algorithmic suppression. Every single time these massive institutions utilize the network, the protocol mandates the permanent combustion of XRP as cryptographic fuel, systematically incinerating the native supply. The sudden, violent jumps in trading activity you see are the market algorithms desperately attempting to price in this massive international adoption. Download the final deep-sea evacuation trajectory parameters directly into your personal navigation matrix immediately, because identifying the sovereign manipulation and deeply analyzing the massive structural reality revealed by this oceanic anomaly is absolutely, entirely useless if you are permanently trapped within the crushing pressure zone when the extreme volatility finally strikes. We have empirically proven the covert dark pool accumulation by the billion-dollar exchange-traded funds, the exponential utility growth of the RLUSD kinetic engine, the massive DTCC systemic integration, and the colossal international banking deployment successfully executed out of Europe by titans like Deutsche Bank and Société Générale. So, what is the ultimate mathematical destination of this digital asset when the global liquidity cycle officially peaks, the universal tidal alignment is finalized, and the algorithmic containment field is permanently shattered? Highly classified macroeconomic risk assessments, continuously refined by elite quantitative marine biologists at Tier 1 institutions like Standard Chartered Bank, have established a mathematically grounded baseline target of $8 per token for the conclusion of this specific atmospheric cycle, representing representing a massive structural repricing. To the uninitiated civilian observer, currently psychologically traumatized by months of agonizing artificial suppression, an $8 projection sounds like impossible, utopian science fiction, designed merely to generate false hope and trap retail liquidity in the jaws of the Leviathan. But to the elite tracker who understands the absolute mathematical certainty of a violently constricting physical supply curve colliding head-on with exponential institutional utility bandwidth, an $8 valuation is merely a highly conservative orbital waypoint on the journey to total structural dominance. However, you cannot successfully navigate this high-stakes digital wealth transition without a ruthlessly disciplined, completely emotionless framework. Human greed, impatience, and panic are the ultimate fatal vulnerabilities when attempting to achieve escape velocity from a dying financial ocean. I strictly mandate the immediate implementation of an automated execution strategy known as the Thirds Protocol. When the network price violently shatters the historical all-time high resistance parameter of $3.84, you must automatically execute a tactical payload release and sell exactly 33% of your holdings. This unemotional maneuver secures a complete, absolute recovery of your initial fiat capital deployment, instantly transforming the remainder of your digital portfolio into pure stress-free profit. Survive the depths.